Hey guys, error of the day here, and we need to talk about the 2022 Baltimore Orioles. P.S. I would have titled this video The Story of the Baby Birds, but thanks to advice from the legend Adam Jones himself, I decided to go in a different direction. But where do I start? Under the GMing of Dan Duquette and the elite management of Buck Showalter, the Orioles were turned from a team rebuilding for 14 years into a contender. With the core of Manny Machado, Chris Davis, Adam Jones, Matt Wieters, and Jonathan Scope, and free agents who led the league in home runs for a year, like Nelson Cruz and Mark Trumbo in the Orioles lineup, and the condensed frame of Camden Yards, the Orioles were a slugging machine, finishing top 3 in home runs every year from 2012 to 2016, finishing first 3 times in that span. And even though the starting pitching was horrendous in that same timeline, finishing 21st, 27th, 25th, 24th, and even rock bottom 30th in 2016, the bullpen was just good enough to cover up the woes. In the years that the Orioles made the postseason, the bullpen finished top 6 in ERA, thanks to the elite arms of Zach Britton, Brad Brock, and Darren O'Day. Throughout Dan Duquette's tenure in Baltimore, he tried to do the best he could with the limited budget to fix the rotation. He signed All-Star Ubaldo Mendez, traded for All-Star Wade Miley, and drafted Kevin Gausman, but they all had little to no success with the Orioles.
This file was optimized
It seemed like there was conclusive evidence that it was just too difficult a task to be a starting pitcher with the short and close left field wall of Camden Yards. And after missing the postseason while finishing last in starters ERA again in 2017, the Orioles found themselves in a little predicament. Being that they extended Adam Jones and Chris Davis, they justified neglecting to extend their biggest superstar, 4-time All-Star and 2-time Gold Glove winner Manny Machado. And Manny was a free agent right after the 2018 season. In addition to him, their elite closer, who had a historic 2016 where he did not blow a single save and received all Cy Young votes, Zach Britton was a free agent as well. So with the need to win right away, Dan Duquette had to be more aggressive than ever before in the upcoming free agency. And as soon as the 2017 season was over, Dan Duquette got to work, signing veteran Andrew Castor from the Rangers and Alex Cobb from the Rays right before spring training began. The 2018 Orioles looked like they might be back to winning again after a down year, and maybe winning in a bigger version than ever before. They had strong infield offensively and defensively, with the double play combo of Manny Machado, Jonathan Scope, and Chris Davis, all of whom are plus bats. Chris Davis even led the league in home runs in 2013 and 2015. The infield also had Tim Beckham, who after being traded to the Orioles at the deadline of 2017, hit .306 with 10 bombs and an OPS plus of 132 in his 2 months with the club. They also had their top prospect, Chance Sisco, right on the verge of being ready for the majors, and he would start at catcher. They also had the outfield consisted of their team leader Adam Jones in center, young sensation Trey Mancini in left, and whichever old veteran was interested in right. Kobe Rasmus, anyone? But you can't get too upset about that one bad link in a crazy good lineup, with 2016 league home run leader Mark Trumbo as a nice finishing touch at DH. And even though Britton started off the year hurt, the rest of the pen should be good enough to cover the hole. And with Kevin Gausman and Dylan Bundy rotation infused with flashing new acquisitions, it seemed the Orioles were destined for greatness, right? Well, the first major red flag came when Manny Machado requested and received a position switch. The best third baseman in baseball was now a shortstop, and never before third baseman Tim Beckham was now playing the hot corner. This decision can only be described as selfish and money-seeking, as shortstops tend to make more in free agency. After this, everything seemed to be off. After a good first week, it all went wrong. Chris Davis's batting average fell to 160. Jonathan Scope and Tim Beckham were nowhere near the 2017 elite selves. Mark Trumbo went from 47 bombs in 2016 to only 17 long balls. Dylan Bundy and Andrew Castor had an ERA well above 5, and Alex Cobb had a whip around 1.5, and Kevin Gausman had an ERA in the sky-high 4s. The Orioles were horrendous, and they had a lowly 28-69 record at the All-Star break. And if the 2018 Orioles were equivalent to Drake's Honestly Nevermind album, Manny Machado was a Jimmy Cooks, hitting 24 bombs with a .315 batting average, all in just the first half. Being that the Orioles were this out of the race, they needed to strike the most painful blow you can to the fan base, a total teardown of a team that revived the baseball spirits in the heart of Baltimoreans, and to trade all the players they had grown attached to and loved. On July 18, 2018, a day after Manny Machado started as shortstop for the American League in the All-Star Game, he was traded to the Dodgers for a big haul of 5 prospects. They then went on to make 4 more trades, saying goodbye to all their big names. Dan Duquette, who we all knew had a couple of months left until he would no longer be employed by the Orioles, gave the most painful press conference announcing the total rebuild direction the team was going in. We had identified the areas that we need to improve in, Duquette said in a somber tone. Technology, international scouting, and investing in more front office staff to be more in line with our competitors. Dan Duquette didn't only do an amazing job of foreshadowing with that press conference, he also identified the issues plaguing the organization perfectly. The team always refused to scout internationally and were well behind the tech-savvy teams in the division. The Yankees and Red Sox both had huge baseball facilities in foreign countries. The Dan Duquette Buck Showalter staff were far from the analytical users the top dogs were. And in the offseason, after parting ways with Duquette and 2014 Manager of the Year Buck Showalter, the Orioles set out to find the most analytically inclined smart GM out there. And shortly they found the man. They hired the guy mostly responsible for building the powerhouse Houston Astros through scouting and minor league development, Mike Elias. Elias also brought along with him former NASA engineer Sing Meidel to be the sabermetrics analyst and assistant manager. He also hired Brandon Hyde from the 2016 champion Cubs to be manager. In 2019, the pain of a tanking season started off with a bang, as the fallen Warrior Chris Davis set records of ineptitude. He had the lowest single-season batting average among qualifiers, hitting 168 and an internally impressive over 54 hitless streak, a streak that may never be broken. The lineup overall performed pretty well, though, to be fair, with Trey Mancini and waiver claim Renato Nunez hitting 30 home runs respectively. Along with the homers, Trey hit an impressive 291 batting average, while Hanser Alberto had a not-too-savvy 305 himself. Jonathan Villar had a solid season to be hitting 274 with 24 bombs. And while prospects Chance Sisco and Cedric Mullins fell for Cliff, third-round pick Austin Hayes and Rule 5 selection Anthony Santander did pretty well. Although the lineup had much positive progress, other than All-Star John Means, and the pitching was horrendous, having the worst ERA in the league with a 5.59 ERA and giving up the most homers, 35 more than the second-place team. And Mike Elias had a major win draft night, though. He got a generational catching prospect, Adley Rutschman, Baseball America's 2021 top prospect. And he also drafted Gunnar Henderson, Baseball America's 2022 top prospect, in the second round. Then 2022 happened, and with the minor leagues missing that year due to the pandemic, many people thought this could possibly destroy any rebuilding team's plans, Orioles included. Well, spoiler alert though, it didn't. The Major League season had similar themes as the one before. The lineup thinks that Hanser Alberto, Jose Iglesias, and Ryan Mountcastle did pretty well, while the pitching was awful. Same in 2021. Cedric Mullins found himself again, hitting 30 homers with a 291 batting average, but the pitching was putrid outside of John Means again. With the rebuild being 3 years old now, they seem to have a solid offensive core of Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle, and Trey Mancini, but without any progress as far as the pitching goes. But how? How is the development so fast-paced with hitters, but stagnant with the pitching arms year after year? Well, there was one particular tactic teams were using to score off the Orioles, and that was the home run. In 2021, the Orioles gave up the most deep balls in the league, with 258 long shots, surrendering 155 of those at home. The pitching problem wasn't solely a talent one, as many of their former arms went on to absolutely ball. Wade Miley, who had a 6.05 ERA over 2 seasons in Baltimore, hasn't had an ERA above 4 in a full season 4 years since. Kevin Gausman went from solid half of the year pitcher to an ace in San Francisco. Even less recently, Jake Arrieta, who struggled greatly as an Oriole, became a Cy Young winner with the Cubs. Given this information, the issue must not only be with the talent, but also largely due to their home run-friendly home ballpark of Camden Yards. After Camden Yards gave up the most home runs per game in 2021, Michael Elias decided to make a much-needed change. In a controversial move, he moved the left field wall back from 376 feet to 398 feet away from home plate and 15 feet above the ground. The move was made not only to help the current roster, but to also make Camden Yards a more desirable destination for future free agent arms as well. It felt like Mike Elias had more in mind the latter, though, as the 2022 rotation wasn't filled with big names or big prospects. Elias has picked up, rather it's filled with no names and rejects. Other than John Means, it was basically tryouts for the remaining 4 rotation slots. They signed Jordan Lyles, who has an ERA in the 5s. He was brought in essentially as an inning eater because the other rotation arms were basically stretch relievers. Other than him, a group of fringe top 30 prospects in the Orioles organization were competing for a roster spot. After the dreaded lockout, opening day came along, and although there was a bumpy start and some of the starters, Bruce Zimmerman, weren't doing well, the rotation overall was performing surprisingly solid. 30th round draft pick Spencer Watkins, who the Orioles required after the Tigers released him due to his lack of success in the minors, cut his earned runs allowed to half the amount in 2021, while also increasing his pitching time substantially, hurling 20 more innings than last year. 2021 Rule 5 pick Tyler Wells did a great job as well, keeping similar positive production in his new starter role. The DFA'd Austin Voth found a new career with the Orioles, and Jordan Lyles was performing his inning vacuum role to perfection. And while they lost their ace John Means for the year, they found a new ace in Israeli pitcher Dean Kramer from the Machado trade. He went from pitching lost in the majors to starter number 1. The DFA by the Royals, Jorge Lopez, became an all-star closer, and after he was traded at the deadline, Felix Bautista took over. And when he comes in the 9th with his 6'5" frame coming out of the bullpen to Omar's whistle, going to the mound to throw 100 miles an hour is the most intimidating being in baseball. Sorry, Aroldis Chapman. Waiver claims CNL Perez and Dylan Tate from the Zach Britton trade are now absolute studs as well. But this wall change wouldn't have attributed to a single win, and not for the fact that the Orioles took on a whole new identity offensively as well. The Orioles were previously known to have a batting order filled with slugging long ball specialists. Chris Davis, Nelson Cruz, Mark Trumbo, Manny Machado, Pedro Alvarez, and Renato Nunez were just a fraction of the good examples. While the teams that win by hitting long balls despite mediocre pitching are often the most entertaining, being in the division as the Yankees and Red Sox, teams with similar building strategies, it wasn't a substantial winning plan. Because the big market teams will always have the bigger budget and better talent and will destroy your own game. And with the new off the wall, Michael Elias had an amazing opportunity to build the lineup with a vastly different style than Andrew Kep and Andy McPhail. Roster spots are now filled with speedsters and masters at manifesting runs, rather than 3 true outcome boomer bust power guys. Cedric Mullins breaking out last year helped a ton due to the fact that he gelled into the new game plan to perfection. DFA'd by the Padres, Jorge Mateo is now a household name for all Orioles fans because he received everyday playing time this year. He became the best base runner in baseball. He seems to always be in scoring position. Ramon Arias and Austin Hayes are now always coming up clutch, scoring guys in or getting on base. And Ryan Mountcastle, Anthony Santander provide the pop because even without having a lineup primarily filled with power bats, they still need some blasts. Midway through the season, the Orioles, who were starting to win more often, called up 2019 number 1 overall pick, and at that time the best prospect in baseball, Adley Rutschman. The day of his debut, May 21st, 2022, the Orioles went from a high upside team to a team straight up dubbing, going from a 7 games below 500 ball club without Adley to a team 11 games over 500 with him. At the time of making this video, with the Orioles going from giving up the most homers in the league at home to 4th least, and with the lineup going from either going yard or striking out to becoming a run factory on the base pads, the Orioles are now an extremely solid team that no one wants to see in 2022 as well as in a few years. And the scariest part of all this is that Michael Elias has turned the farm system in 4 years into the best one in baseball, and only a grand total of one of the players that he drafted has been called up to the majors. That's right. The Orioles are doing so well with waiver claims, Rule 5 picks, and Duquette leftovers that the best prospects in the world are stuck at AAA. Where can they play Kyle Stowers and Yusniel Diaz when you have Austin Hayes, Anthony Santander, and Cedric Mullins hogging the outfield? Plus, don't forget you have outfielders Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, and Jackson Holliday ready to show why they are so highly ranked in the near future. Where is there room in a Mountcastle, Barbara, Mateo, or Urias infield for two of the highest-ranked prospects in baseball, Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Westbrook. The Orioles starting five is doing a beyond phenomenal job, and they have John Means, Grayson Rodriguez, D.L. Hall, Mike Baumann, and Chase Pavich breathing down
This
the
file was
going for their
optimized
spots in
by
2023. The Orioles are in the exact opposite spot as they were in 2018, going from their GM leaving them with little to no talent in the organization outside of the majors to having such a large quantity of talent. It doesn't make any sense for them to sign any free agents, and they are automatically in the conversation for any superstar in the majors, purely on the premise that you can't have 24 guys in your lineup and 12 guys in your rotation. And thanks to stadium construction, they're already a dangerous team in 2022. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ROTheJ.